Hey, welcome up, my our veterans podcast fans here. Oh my goodness. Um, sorry, I had something up here. I'm sorry, guys. I kind of messed up. I had something here and it's not here anymore. Hey, this is Veteran Sports Voice podcast. It's got me, Sean, Coach Pops here, and we got Steven Seagal over here, and he'll tell you why
Right.
here later, aka
Absolutely.
Ian McCants. Um, guys, we here today. We should have been on here yesterday, but man, I had some stuff going on, little family stuff going on around the house. And then Ian, we'll let Ian tell you where he was at because it'd probably be the most happiest part of this show tonight for him, for this intro here. But no, my guy took a little vacation. So how
Yeah.
was your vacation, Mr. McCants?
Man, it was good. It was good. We honeymooning, me and the missus, man. So we went to LA. That was cool. That was really my first time being in LA other than a layover. And man, she found us some rooms, a room right across from where LeBron plays, man. So hung out there, went on a cruise, went to Cabo, and so it was good time, man. Good way to bring the year in.
Good, we're good. I'm going to ask. I hope you didn't have to watch the Indiana Alabama game, but you probably didn't. But it was not pretty at all, man. It was an
Right,
Indiana 38, Alabama 3.
right.
Um, just dude, I don't know if you saw it, but man, I'll be honest with you. Dude, it wasn't even competitive. Like
Yeah,
Alabama, they didn't just beat them, bro. They controlled them from start to finish.
yeah.
They had God, what this the running back he had Indiana rushed for 215 yards on 50 carries. Dude, they were beating
Mm.
them on off tackle concepts, inside zone concepts. They stretched the field. It was just it was like watching Alabama play the old Alabama way, because you see Signetti. And then I think, there was a time when Alabama went for it on trying to get a first down on a fourth down, and you could tell
Mhm, mhm.
he had that look on his face like,
Yeah,
how dare you come at me with
I
that? Like,
saw that. It was early.
oh,
Hey, man, look, it was comical. He looked so unimpressed.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was. And and the bottom line, the thing was, it wasn't a fluke, man. Indiana just
Mhm.
lined up good on good. And you know what? They just like Chris likes to say, they put that belt to the ass.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Ty got hurt. People didn't know that, but you could tell he got hurt. And I think you later told me he cracked a rib
Yeah,
there.
cracked the
So I
rib,
mean, yeah.
from
And
what I was
so
reading. Yeah.
I know he came
Yeah, no
back in, I
excuse
think, for a
though.
series. Yeah, yeah, no
But
excuse.
which Bama we don't get any anyway. It's like,
Right.
living here in this state in Georgia, and they celebrate that championship where Bryce Young played, with a couple of athletic strength trainers out there at wide receiver. But they they
Right.
celebrate that championship like we didn't have a bunch of injuries, and so it is what it is, man. But yeah, first of all, I got to start with the name, and that's gonna, show where I'm gonna go the rest of the show. Steven Seagal was hard to kill, and so that's what Bama is. So even though I'm realistic, and I'll talk about my team, let's be clear. Some of y'all are too gleeful. Your team wasn't even in the playoffs. Please recognize that we're gonna be back. We're gonna be back. We're out of freaking Bama. Now the game. Yeah, man. I don't even know what to say about that. We were in Cabo, and the early part of the game was on, but we had to get back on the ship, and so I think we watched like maybe half of the first quarter, and I told her, I was like, listen, and Bama had a on defense a good first second series, and Mendoza looked a little shaky to me, but I told her, I was like, nerves can go away. And and then he started hitting a few passes. I was like, oh man, we might be in trouble. Get back on the boat. They're like 38-3. I'm like, what? And so it's no excuse for that. I love my team, man, but there's no reason in the world that Bama should lose to anybody by 35 points that does not play in the NFL. And I understand that Saban had a bad couple of losses early on, but what he inherited and what DeBoer, look, the people that were mad and left Bama made their team win a national championship, Ohio State. So that's how stacked Bama was. And so it's no excuse to come in there and lose by 35 points to the team that was the second most losingest team in history, like 2 seasons ago, if that's a word. And right. So, I don't make any excuses. DeBoer, this is my first time being uncertain about him. And, I know you got to give coaches time, but you can't lose like that, man. And it's okay, to, realize that you can't put a square peg into a round hole. And sometimes you have to cut them ties.
Right. You're right. No. And the thing was, Mendoza, he threw 16 total passes, but he was 14 of 16 for 192 yards and 3 touchdown passes. Mm-hmm. But he impressed me too, because the one thing he did do was he scrambled, and when he scrambled, it was always north and south, mm-hmm. and it was enough to hurt. It was enough to hurt y'all. Right. There was at one point I was like, dude, somebody's got to spy this guy. If he's going to get 9 yards a pop, doing this, somebody's got. But he was able to do that, and
right.
It just, right. It was, and they used, like, to me, Alabama looked lost, confused a lot of times because they had certain formations, they were running motions out of it, and he was forcing Alabama, y'all's defense, to declare really mm-hmm. early. Like, he had a good pre-snap read before anything. Alabama didn't do anything to disguise their courage because he would get them out of it about motioning and this, that, and the other, and right, and then they would just, like, it's like they knew, like, okay, here's the defender over here that's in conflict, go after him, and they did every time. Right, and it was good. And so when y'all played zone, they worked the voids. When they played man, they were able to get separation on your DBs every time. Right. So and they controlled the tempo, and it was a good win. You can't take anything from the win, but I'm over here, like, sitting here going, what happens now? What's the state of Alabama football right now?
Right.
What's going to happen? Because now it's like, before you always had Alabama in the top 5. I don't, or top mm-hmm. top 2. Now it's like, are they really going to be, good? And I think this portal that's coming up for Bama and, mm-hmm. and this recruiting cycle, and then what was y'all's recruiting class last year? It was
like number 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah. So y'all got players to develop. How good is that development going to come along now in year 2? So, what's your take on it? And just how short is Kalen's Coach DeBoer's leash, if it even is short?
It's very short, as it should be, because, like I said, that loss was inexcusable. That loss to Georgia in the SEC championship, I thought that was inexcusable. And then Kalen said, wait, hold my beer. And he did it, in a more extreme way. So that's ridiculous. But I think the main thing about Bama, man, and this is where you have to give, credit to Coach Saban. He was a modern version of Bear Bryant. They said Bear Bryant would have, his roster, his first stringers, his second stringers, and then, his third stringers was just guys he didn't want to be on your team. Right. That's kind of how Saban was. You look at the coaches, under his tree. You look at the amount of NFL players, man, and he was a CEO. He was a godfather. I don't know if he was the best in X's and O's, but he was a great CEO, and I think he was very intimidating. And I don't think DeBoer has that at all, man. And so I believe him when they say Bama won a lot of games by rolling that helmet out there before, the first snap. And so that's gone. And so now you just got to play the game. And, we've talked to a few people. We've talked about reality, and that's where Bama, we have to be realistic. Are we able to pony up the money that, Texas Tech just, showed you how you can buy a team, to be within a couple of games of winning it all within a year, so do we have those type of resources, alumni? It'll be interesting to see, man. And to be honest, I don't have the answers because the NIL is new, and that changes everything. If it wasn't for that, I would be like, we're probably going to be like that 2021-22 Michigan. You just want to see them die, but they don't, and they're right there. And, at any time they could circle back. That's what I was expecting. But with this NIL, don't know, man. Uncertain times.
Well, you know what? You brought up an interesting fact when we were talking here before we came on air. The quarterback that replaced Ty Simpson, that's not the quarterback that you think is the future quarterback for Alabama. Tell me about that.
Oh, absolutely not. So the guy that played in the game, his name is Austin Mack. I think he followed DeBoer down from Washington. But the thing about it, DeBoer is going to lose one or two quarterbacks. You got Ty Simpson, who is not ready to go to the NFL. If he is injured, like the reports say, he's probably going to try to do like Carson Beck. He knows that he's not the most talented. They pretty much just gave him his dues for sticking around. All right. So he could be out of there. And you have, Keelan Russell, who's from Georgia. And he's the guy, man. He fits that Kalen DeBoer mold, sort of like Michael Penix, dual threat. Kalen don't want to run the ball pro style. He don't want to run the ball. He want that quarterback back there in the option, running that read. And so Keelan gives him the best at that. But Keelan Mack is a baller, man. That kid is like about 6'5", 6'6". He can make any throw on that field that you want to make, that you want him to throw. I don't think he's as mobile as Keelan Russell, but, man, he got an arm on him. So, he's going to lose one of those guys, man. And so it'll be interesting to see who wins out in that.
Well, we'll see. I think I told you he's got to have a running back that offsets the quarterback for that read play. So when that quarterback does hand that ball off, that guy's going to get his yards because it enhances the quarterback read, right? If the quarterback pulls it, you got to have the linebackers. That first step has to be towards that running back. And this year you haven't seen that. There's Alabama for whatever reason just has not been able to run the ball this year, and that came back and got them. Yeah,
it was
that
a
came back and got them.
We should have had Justice Haynes. He got up out of there. Jam Miller, who was the least talented running back we had on our roster, but the best pass blocker, which is what Alabama needed because some of that blame goes to Ty. Ty processed slowly. He processed everything slow. The calls from the sidelines, man, I can't tell you how many times he snapped. We should have had a lot more, false start penalties, delay of game penalties than what we had. And so, I don't know if that forced the offensive staff to prioritize blocking over skill. They were just trying to give him an extra half second, because that was the blueprint at the end. It really wasn't a blueprint. Everybody knew it. They just weren't doing it, but pressure Ty, game over, And so I think they just wanted to, give him a little bit more protection back there. And because of that, our running game suffered. So, it's a lot of blame to go around in that, man.
Well, and we're going to see what next year happens. And, because the transfer portal has opened and it's wow. And there's some stuff, happening around. We'll get into that a little bit later here. Did you get to see any of the Ole Miss Georgia game at all?
Just hearing people talk about it, man. Like I said, last week, I was out of it, and not really able to catch a lot of the sports. But I hear that Chambliss and the good thing about that is I saw that him and Lacey decided to come back for 26, this year. And that's such a good thing. I'm a Lane Kiffin fan, man. I've said that on the show, but I also like when men don't fold, and that's what they're doing, man. We thought they would just fold. And I thought Pete Golden was the worst, because he was defensive coordinator under Saban. And that's when things really started going bad under him. And so, but man, I'm happy for them, and I hope them continued success. But tell me about the game, bro.
Man, that was probably one of the most exciting games so far. Besides the last night was the Montana State Illinois State game. That was an amazing overtime game last night. But Dude, they had Georgia off balance from the word jump. Like it was crazy. And then for some reason, Georgia couldn't set the edge on anything that went to the outside. And I knew it was going to be a long night at that time. And then, Georgia would get a pass rush on him and he would get out of it. He could scramble. And then he made just some beautiful throws that just, you just like, all you can do is just, damn, that I don't care how you do. There was no defending it. Ole Miss came to play and, it kind of got into a shootout there. And then at the end, it's kind of like LSU does this against Arkansas. It's a close game. They'll let one of our receivers get behind them on a prevent defense, and that's what happened here. They thought we were going into overtime, and he made a throw, and kid got behind everybody. And next thing you know, they're in field goal range, and so it became, it was a great game. And hats off. And like you said, Ole Miss is probably going through more turmoil, more things that we don't see that we're only speculating about, but there's no telling what's going on in that locker room. You hear everything from Lane Kiffin tampering with coaches to the point where I think even I've heard like Pete Golding saying that, they're talking about getting like lawyers involved. It's getting so bad. So, but they're kind of in a hard spot. Who are they going to have to run the offense? Weiss is like the only one there. I know Golding, I think, has his own offensive coordinator, but he doesn't know that playbook. So it's kind of it's an interesting with that, but with that being said, we'll kind of go into our next segment with the Miami Ole Miss game. From a coaching point, to me, if Ole Miss plays the same game they played with Georgia, this could be a long night for Miami. And I say that because when I watched Carson Beck play his game, he was just throwing the ball up on a deep pass. Honest, I didn't. It was just you kind of swear like he was just throwing it up, hoping for the best, right? Where Trinidad Chambliss knew where he was going with the ball every time,
right.
And he's got enough mobility, and I like what you said a while ago, because he's a man. He's played in 2 national championships just at a lower level, right? And that's facts. So. This is just a little bit bigger stage, but he's been here before, if that makes sense, right?
Right.
But Mississippi State's going to try to. I'm sorry, not Mississippi. Miami is going to try to get after him with that pass rush. They are going to try to get after him, and he's mobile. He's mobile enough to escape it, and if he does, he's accurate enough. He's going to make them pay, and we're going to see how good that back end of Miami's is going to be. To me, Ole Miss is kind of everything that Ole Miss does is kind of playing into the weaknesses of Miami. So I think the game it's like maybe 1.5 or something. I'm not sure what the spread was. It was not very big.
Right.
So and I'm an SEC guy, and I would be rooting for him unless it was Texas. But I'm rooting for this just because of the adversity these guys have faced. And now with Lacey coming back and Chambliss is coming back if he gets that extra year granted to him by the NCAA. Like you said, man, I respect and I honor loyalty. And not a lot of that going around. So hats off to Ole Miss.
Right.
And I'm hoping that Ole Miss pulls this out. Just for nothing else, I don't want to hear Danny Cannell's ass, period. I don't want to hear him at all.
This is the good thing about your team being out already. You can just appreciate the game. You don't care who winning, and so that's how I am with this. Whoever wins, I'm happy. I talked about Ole Miss, but for some reason I'm taking Miami. I think that, like you said, man, this is going to be some contrasting styles, and I think and let me say one thing. I am disappointed that Georgia didn't win. Now they're not disappointed because they don't care. They won their Super Bowl, which was Alabama. Right. And so they don't care that. And I wanted them to play against Carson Beck. That's what I wanted to happen. But with that being said, here we are. Carson Beck is with Miami, and Cristobal is somewhat a Saban guy. If you get 1 year, 2 years in Saban, you was under his coaching regime, you are a Saban guy. And so he's okay with that disciplined defensive win. I think that Ole Miss wants more chaos. You know, I think they want to spread the field a whole lot of east and west, and you know, give Chambliss a lot of room to create. And so it's a matter of who imposes their will. But you know, I'll say this about Miami. You know, people were seesaw about Alabama all year. You know, they said earlier they're gonna win, then we lost to Florida State, then they were like they're sucked, then we beat Georgia. But you know who was really picked early to win it all? It was Miami. You know, I saw a lot of commentators pick them outright, and then I think Beck just didn't unfold the way that they were expecting him to. But here they are, man, and so they got the pieces. To me, they got the best defense I've seen out there. No disrespect to, you know, the other teams because I haven't seen them, so I guess I'm just comparing Miami to Miami, but they're solid, good running game, and all Beck got to do is just not be stupid. And you know, I'll take defense all day, man. And so it'll just be interesting to see who imposes their will the most. But for some reason, I got to go with Miami in this one.
Well, you know, and you're right, because Miami wants to slow this game down. I mean, that's what they do. But I think to win this game right here, because I feel like Ole Miss is going to score their points. I do. And Miami's defense is good, but I will say this. And man, and I could totally be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll be next week. I'll call it out. I'll be like I was wrong. But Miami played Texas A&M. Texas A&M. We saw what they were kind of that. They were a fraud. You know, in my opinion on that. And then Miami's coming out of the ACC. Their defense is, you know, I think they're going to get tested here because they're going to see some stuff they ain't seen all year. You know, because you're right. My Ole Miss wants to create chaos. I mean, they want to stretch you horizontally. They want to stretch your eyes. I mean, they want to hit chunk plays when they can. And that's the one thing. Linebackers, and they better trust their eyes. They better play their reads, trust their eyes, because if not, it's going to be ugly. It's going to get bad. And they want to attack space, and they want to create mismatches, and that's what they do well. But you know, Miami is they're good at slowing that game down, and they tackle well in space. We know that about Miami. They do. They get after you. They swarm to the ball. They don't have a lot of I've watched a few of their games. I didn't see a lot of busted coverages. I did see some, but I didn't see like something that was a problem, just something they needed to fix. But that's where I think Ole Miss is going to they're going to create that eye stress, you know, like, what am I looking at? Am I really seeing this? Am I not? And I think that's why I'm kind of leaning towards Ole Miss on this. And the other thing that I'm leaning is because I think if Carson Beck has to be put in a spot to win this game, I don't think he can do it, Ian. I don't think he can do it. So,
but you left out one major advantage from Miami. They got the best mascot in the game, Michael.
They did. You said Michael. I love it.
How can you lose with that tomfoolery going on the sideline? How can you lose, man?
That was something. That was something right there. But yeah, we're going to have to see how it goes. You know, but this is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a good game with that, and so you know we'll see there. And then then we got the Oregon Indiana game here, and before we get on that, guys, hey, we are College Sports Crew. And if you're watching us, you're on YouTube. And if you are, hit that subscribe button for us, please. And we're on X, we're at College Crew. On YouTube, we're at College Sports Crew. Hit that subscribe button for us and get us out there more. And if you tell your friends, come over here to the YouTube at College Sports Crew and hit that subscribe button. Please, please, please. And our guy, Chris, if you're on TikTok, follow him. The College Sports Crew. Chris. He does lives. Yeah, Chris does the lives, baby. He's got it going on. I can tell y'all this about Chris, and he doesn't realize it yet because I hadn't told him this. 2 posts I had blow up. One went over 25,000 views, and it got reposted so many times. And it didn't happen until after he came in and reposted it for me. And then he did the same thing last night to another Darius Acuff post that I did for Arkansas basketball, and it doubled. almost immediately overnight. And
oh man,
I keep telling him he's got a following that he doesn't know about. We got to get it in there. So y'all, Chris, our guy, Chris Pugh, he's the one producing right here behind the scenes, but he's the one that does most of the college sports crew live TikToks. He goes live, man. Y'all listen up, because that dude's got some stuff out, and he messed up and gave me the keys to the car, so I'm gonna be jumping in there from time to time and going live on there, and I think we actually kind of figured it out where Chris and I both can come on at the same time and do live together on TikTok. So don't be surprised if you see old Coach Pops jump in there and do some craziness with him on there. But with that being said, what happened there? With that being said, we got another game that's coming up. And we're not going to try to get too involved here, guys, because we got an amazing show. We got the SEC show, and we talk ball. Them guys are coming in right behind us. 2 shows in one. That's right, 2 shows in one right there, and they're going to break it down with a nastiness. And so I'm not going to get too much into this for them. And so our show is probably not going to go as long as it would go today, because I didn't get to plan as much as I like to. I had some stuff going on, and I apologize for that, but that won't happen again. Yeah, and hey, guys, we also too, I want to give a shout out to Jamal Clay from Athletes Forum Podcast. He has joined forces. He came over to the dark side with us. And y'all, if you're here on YouTube, I want you to go over and I want you to look. He did a breakdown from he did a 7-minute video of when he was at the Orange Bowl with Texas Tech playing Oregon. My God, that was an amazing 7-minute video. I got to get with him, because on the 17th, I'm going to watch Oregon play number 2 Michigan in basketball here in Eugene. So I want to try to do something like that, what he did. But Jamal, if you're out there, hell of a show, bud. We appreciate it. We appreciate what you did on that. So anyway, with that being said, Oregon went right past Texas Tech. I mean, it was they won. I wasn't impressed with the quarterback play, but I did call out one thing. I told him that, said that Brandon Feeney Jr., number 4, need to pay attention to that kid, 18-year-old true freshman. And I'll be honest with y'all, I didn't know a whole lot about him, but when I did go to the JMU game, Oregon JMU game here in Eugene, that kid, having worked with DBs, that kid immediately caught my eye. Not one time did I see him out of position, out of phase, out of anything, except he was in the hip pocket of his guy. And I told our guys on we have a behind the scenes chat that we do, a text message chat, group chat. And I told everyone of them, I said, this kid's going to be key, in my opinion. And I'll be damned. He had 2 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. And that's an 18-year-old true freshman. And I'm going to tell you right now, Oregon, your ass better come out with that money, because that kid, you can bet my ass somebody's already contacted his people. So that kid's that good. But with that being said, man, it was a great win. The quarterback play, I wasn't impressed with it, but he played well enough to win. But their defense did great. And you know what? And we'll go back to this too, real fast. Every one of the coaches still left in the playoff, and Chris will be shaking his head if I'm wrong here. All of them have a tie to Saban.
Of course,
every one of them. Every one of them have been with Saban. So that just says something. If you're going to tell me that, the Saban ain't the GOAT, now shut up, because he's got 4 coaches in the national that are competing for a national championship right now. And 2 of them will be there.
If you say Saban's not the GOAT, you're just a hater.
That's it. Absolutely.
I got to give you props, though, man, because, before the playoffs, you call Oregon as your pick. And I'm starting to agree with you, man. And, like I said, I want to be fair, to the other teams, because I haven't seen them play. I'm just going off stats. But just based off what I know about football, I think that this gives Oregon an advantage over Indiana. Now, I didn't see, Mendoza, I saw his stats against Bama. He wasn't, necessarily just lighting up through the field. But if this Finney kid takes half the field away, yes. Now here's Mendoza, trying to make it work with half that field, man. And I like Oregon when it comes to that, because you gotta, we gotta really, analyze what they did to Texas Tech. Texas Tech was averaging 42 points a game. 42 points a game. And, Oregon, I want to say that was their first shutout of a top 10 team in their history. So
I believe you're right.
What they did was magnificent, man. And, and so I'm going with them, to win it all. whoever to me wins this next game is going to be the winner. You know, I think that Miami and Ole Miss, that'll be an entertaining game, but I don't believe in either one of them, you know, in comparison to Oregon or, you know, what I have read about Indiana. So we'll see, man. But
right.
You know, I'm excited to see these games. I will actually see these games this time.
Well, I tell you, and you're right. Finney takes the half of that field away. There is a way to do it, but I haven't seen, and I was trying to find some film earlier to see if I could catch him. So it's the best way you do it is you try to get him in man coverage.
Mm-hmm.
You want him in man coverage, and you want that receiver to outside release. You want that outside reliever to outside release. You want him to do that. The reason why is you want him to turn the DBs back to the quarterback while he's staying in phase. So then, and Bobby Petrino was amazing at this. And the few interceptions that Taylon Green had at Arkansas, dude, about half of them were not his fault. It was because the DB played it right. And so what happens here is if that DB turns his back and he's staying in phase, you either run a mesh route across or a tight end drag coming behind him. But now if he does not let that outside receiver release and he releases inside, he's done his job and he's still looking at the quarterback the whole time.
Right.
And this is an 18-year-old freshman, so I'm curious how he's going to play that. But if I'm Indiana, if I want to use that side of his field, you got to scheme for it, and that's the way you would do it. You know, from a coaching point, that's the way you would do it. You want to try to get that kid's back turned on an outside release from a receiver, and you're going to have somebody come in behind him on it. But but if you don't, dude, that kid, I'm telling you, Ian, he does not get out of phase. He's there the whole way. And I mean, his two interceptions, the second one, he was just literally waiting on it. I was just like, he's going to drop this because he's sitting there waiting. But the first one, he was in phase and he played it perfect. Like he baited that quarterback into throwing that ball. So that's good, you know. And so that's it. It's kind of the same thing. You know, Oregon's going to want that chaos a little bit. The way they want, you know, they want the chunk plays, but you know what? The way Lanning is playing, like you said, I didn't expect a shutout, even with it being Texas Tech and then coming from the Big 12. I didn't expect a shutout.
Yeah.
But you know what? Lanning did, and you could tell he did. So
right.
He's got that edge about him. And
Oregon did what Alabama should have did, man. I mean, you know, and Alabama just wasn't talented enough to do it. But when you're a blue blood, I don't even call Oregon a blue blood, but I like Lanning. And you know, you supposed to put them teams down, man. Who cares what Texas Tech paid for their team? They bought that team, you know, but, you know, put them down, man, put them down. And so that's my disappointment in you know, Alabama, you know, the way that they're handling things, man. And so, you know, but, you know, I don't know. Like I said, I think that Oregon is my pick to win it all, you know, based on what they just did, you know, to Texas Tech. That was not easy, man. And Texas Tech was the media darling. They had the little linebacker. They had his girlfriend going to the games and stuff like that, you know. And so, you know, Oregon, to put them down the way that they did was very impressive.
Right. Well, and to Rodriguez's girlfriend, most people don't know this, but she is an Army helicopter pilot, Black Hawk pilot, if not mistaken. So,
you know, I did see that in one of the shows. Yeah.
hats off to his girl right there. She's doing her thing, serving something bigger than herself. We appreciate that. But yeah, you're right, man. Oregon, for them to win this game, they got to do what Indiana did to Alabama. They got to disrupt the rhythm, quick, fast, in a hurry, and get them out. And then, you know what? I don't know how to read Mendoza off of that game because he didn't have to do a lot.
Right.
He took the passes that were given to him. Right. You know, and you know what? But the thing is, Indiana, them already played. Indiana beat them pretty soundly, and they came back. Yeah. They started coming back, but like Ole Miss showed, it's really hard for two teams to win twice. To win for a team to beat a team twice.
I'm not hating on Mendoza, man, but let's not Joe Montana, man. I mean, you know, his stats came against, you know, horrible teams. I think if you look at his stats, like when he started, you know, they were still winning, don't get me wrong, but you know, his stats against the better teams, man, he was like, you know, he was throwing picks, you know, and lower yards. And so you know, that's what he's going to face here, man. But his value is just being a steady leader. You know, them guys, you know, Indiana reminds me of a Butler in, you know, basketball about 8 to 10 years ago, you know, just chemistry out this world, you know, guys together for 4 years. I'm not saying that's what Indiana did, but, you know, their chemistry is ridiculous because if you watch one of them interview, you watch 30 of them interview. They all say the same thing. Oh, well, it started in the summer, you know, during, you know, like they say the same thing, bro.
Right.
Like in all their interviews. And so either they got a great PR person or it's true, you know, and, you know, Mendoza, you know, he's not going to be a household name in the NFL. Congratulations, you know, for, you know, winning the Heisman, but we all know that's a popularity contest, you know, in college. And so, you know, but, you know, hats off, you know, Alabama has won, a few championships with some game manager type quarterbacks. And, you know, that's what Mendoza is, which, you know, Signetti not scared to win with that.
Yeah. And, you know, and people don't realize this too. You brought up about the, you know, how they're all on the same page. A lot of those players came from JMU. Came there. So those players have been together some 3 and 4 years. So, you know, they're there. And, you know, and I got an interesting guest. I'm going to try to talk to and get him on the program. A kid that I coached at Fayetteville High School that is a backup linebacker at Indiana, Caden Turner. I want to get him on the show. And that's one of the things I want to ask him because I was kind of disappointed with Caden because I expected him like Fayetteville High School, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Ian, I can sit in the football field right there and I can look and I can see Razorback Stadium. It's less than a half a mile away. So I really thought he was going to go there. And when he didn't, I went there. I said, what made you change? He is, man, just talking to Coach Signetti. He goes, it's something special is going to happen. And he knew that then. And he walked away. He was a top linebacker in the state of Arkansas. And he walked away and went there. And hats off to him. That's his decision. And great on him. I'd never – kid gets a free education somewhere, take it. That, you know, I'm not going to hate on you. I'm not that's you know, what is the petty about it. You know, I'm more about my kids on that. So, but I would love to get him on and ask him that question.
That happens a lot, bro. It's like those hometown kids that's within a stone's throw of the stadium. They want to go, man. They want to get up out of there. You know, I've seen it happen at Bama. I've seen it happen at LSU. Like guys that had no business being on opposing teams. It just happens, man. You know, but it's cool that you know, staying in contact with him, you know, and following his journey, man.
It's cool. I got him, and we got a kid, the quarterback from Minnesota, Drake Lindsey. You know, he's doing his thing, starting quarterback this year for Minnesota. But yeah, you know, like you said, this is going to be one of those interesting games, and it depends. I think they're going to have to rely more on Mendoza this game to win it than they did with Alabama. So Alabama, I think, is a 3.5 to 4.5 favorite, depending on where you're looking at. I'm sorry,
Oregon.
Indiana. Indiana. Okay. Yeah, Indiana is the last I saw.
Where's this game at?
Where is this game? In it Arizona? Is it Arizona?
I have to look that up.
Yeah, because the other one's in Atlanta. The Peach.
No, Indiana, Oregon is here.
Okay, that's right. That's the Peach Bowl. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're here this weekend.
That's right.
So I'll be here.
You should go look on VetTix, see if there's some tickets there or something. I'll look and see if there's some tickets on VetTix for you.
Right.
So yeah. But you know, Indiana's favored because they're steady, and they're disciplined, and they're comfortable controlling games. I don't think Dan Lanning's going to let them try to control that game. He's going to try to get them out of whack, get them out of sorts. And I'm curious. Because the one thing Finney does allow people to do for that back end, that defense, man, you can disguise coverages, you can roll coverages, and from the opposite side, you can bring somebody all day, every day, and get in Mendoza's. Hopefully, get into it, you know, get him uncomfortable. So that's how we'll see it.
I'm gonna tell you this about Indiana though, that their fans are coming out, man. You know, we were in LA. I saw more Indiana jackets than I did since Bobby Knight was their coach, man. They are
proud. You know, they should be. You know, they should be.
It's funny. It's they're not arrogant yet. You know, it's funny. It reminded me like 2010, Alabama was playing South Carolina. So I'm at that game, right? Steven Garcia loses his mind. Alabama, South Carolina beats #1 Alabama. And I'll never forget, man, walking out that stadium, they were almost apologetic. They were almost like, we're sorry we beat y'all. That's kind of how Indiana was, man. They weren't talking no trash. We had a couple of Indiana, people on the boat, and they were like, they were telling us where they live, and they, were just hoping to not offend me. I'm like, nah, talk.
Right.
You earned it, And so, but it's good to see. This is what I like, man. And I understand it now when I hated the New England Patriots. It's like you just, sometimes you need some new blood. You need the fans need to experience success, man, and know what that's like. And me personally, because I'm not a hater, I love to see it.
Right. You're right. And you know what? I will say this. You're right. It's cool to see, and it's also too. Golly, I'm actually having to refer to Indiana as a football school. It's so. And
they've been doing it more than 2 years, man.
Yeah, you're right. But who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought that Indiana and Ole Miss could be playing for a national championship?
Right.
So that's kind of cool there. So with that being said, and hey, you brought up Clemson, and I know they're going to talk about this, but I got to say this real fast for Clemson. Coach Morris, anybody out there? Look, I know there's some haters in Arkansas about Coach Morris, Coach Chad Morris, but hey, Coach Morris, man, I'm rooting for you, sir. You gave me a break. You gave me a shot when no one else would. I love you. And I'm rooting for you here. I think he's got a tough road to go with it, because I don't think he's got the players that he needs. But with that being said, Chad Morris, a good man, a good coach, and I'm glad he got the opportunity. And I hope he can turn around Clemson and get their offense going. But I think a lot more than an offensive coordinator needs to happen for that. Dabo needs to get in the portal.
Let me give you some hot news, and I don't know if you saw this. I saw this right before we went live, man. But do you know Baltimore? It looks like they fired Harbaugh.
No, I did not see that at all.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Oh my God.
Maybe that was fake news. I don't know, but I definitely saw that headline, man, before we started this show. So 15 years, man. 15 years. And so that's why I felt the way that I felt about Kiffin. 5 years is good, man, but it's no loyalty the other way around. They let coaches go all the time, man. And we're not even talking about head coaches, man. How many coordinators do the coaches fire to save their own skin, until they eventually get fired, man. So it's a cutthroat game, man. And so, I'm not saying, don't be reliable, lie to these kids, but you don't have to stay at a place forever, man. Because when it's time for you to go, they're going to get you out of there,
Yep, for sure. Yeah, what coach I saw here earlier that that had that he basically fired his defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, and I'm just like, yeah, that was him saving his job, right? So no loyalty on that right there. But hey, man, we're at 43 minutes here. We're gonna probably call this one a little bit early, but before we go, a couple things. We are powered by College Sports Crew right there on the top left. We are the Veteran Sports Voice podcast. It's on my right. Hopefully it's the same on your screen that you're at home watching us. We also we would like for you to go to X at College Crew if you're not already there. Hit that like button or that follow button, and then go to YouTube at College Sports Crew. Hit that subscribe button, and also too, I want to bring up something. And Ian, you don't know this yet, so we got. There we go. Look at that guy right there. That's our producer right there. 79 subscribers, y'all. We just changed this platform out. Right in the middle of the playoffs about to start. So, we're doing our thing. We're slowly growing. We went from a platform where we had a lot of people, and we're doing our thing. And you know what? It's been fun doing this. But also too, Ian, we got this. So hey, everybody, I want to put out an email here. We got it's VSP. I'm sorry, VSV stands for Veterans Sports Voice. VSV at collegesportscrew.com. Hey, man, if you're a veteran, you need something, you need help, we know people to get you there. We know we can help you out. Like, that's what we're here. We're always going to look out for our own. And hey, if you're a friend of a veteran, you're worried about a veteran, hit us up. Again, that's VSV@collegesportscrew.com. I'm Sean. That's Ian. Hit us up. We'll have, I know I have my own there. I think it's Coach Pops there, but we have this, but for this VSV at collegesportscrew.com. Hit us up. If you have anything for a veteran that we need, man, look, that can be anything. If you need to know, my dad called me the other day, had a friend in the nursing home. He's like, hey, who does he need to talk to? Well, he needs to talk to his VSO. It took me 5 minutes to get the VSO's number in Chico County, Arkansas, and get it to him. We can do things like that. And if I don't, I know a VSO that I'm good friends with right down the road right here that can get me answers. If you need help with anything, you need to know how to do disability stuff or anything like that, we can point you in the right direction, guys. That's what we're here to do. All right. And because, this is college sports spoken by those who served. And I'm a former Army Airborne guy, Naval guy. Ian here is Naval guy, fire control technician. So we've been around. We know what we're talking about. And so with that, Ian, if you got anything else, baby, I'm going to shut her down and roll down here a little bit. If you got
anything else. I think you touched on it. And, like you said, feel free. Definitely. That's one thing that I do, actually in civilian, I do disabilities. And, like you said, several shows, it's a lot of people that suffer in silence, and, the sad thing is there's so many outlets, but they're scared to use them, or they feel that it's, less than being masculine, or nobody would understand. And so that's what it's not anything that we want. If you've been on submarines, you understand the military, man. It's nothing, more unique than that, than maybe being a special forces, and so definitely reach out. Let's talk, and, might shed a few tears, whatever, man. We're not just pandering. We're here really, to serve the community.
And that's right. And you're right. Look, I'll tell not even a quick story. I got out in 2005. It wasn't until 2019 that I actually spoke to a counselor and got my head kind of in the right direction. So, and it was the most important life-changing thing I ever did for me and for my wife, for my family. So don't. You can come at me with anything on that thing, and I will talk to you. We will listen. Hell, if you just need somebody to talk to, I got a phone. Whoever it is, we can talk. So with that, that's what we're going to do. This is going to do it for tonight at the Veteran Sports Voice podcast. College sports spoken by those who served. We appreciate every one of y'all who tuned in and engaged and rode with us tonight. We're going to keep breaking it down the right way with honesty, accountability, and respect. What it takes to perform under pressure. To our active duty service members and veterans listening, thank you for what y'all have done and what you're continuing to do. This platform exists because of you. We'll be back soon with more real football talk, more playoff breakdowns, and more truth in the space that needs it. Till next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and stay taking care of each other. Love you guys.
Absolutely.